No community is exempt from potential disaster.
What's a disaster? It's really situations that go beyond our normal capacity to respond. When a disaster happens, the first thing that agencies and public health and emergency management ask is, what is it that we know? What is it that we should be looking for? And how are we going to get that information? If we can respond to situations by thinking it through together up front, everything we do gets better.
After the Deepwater Horizon oil spill, NIEHS was tasked with conducting a longitudinal study of people who had been involved in the cleanup. My staff moved hell and high water to get in the field, and it still took almost 10 months before we could actually begin to recruit participants. Research is needed in response to disasters for two reasons. One, so that you could avoid harm, and also to really understand what happened to the people who were impacted so that you could be involved in treating them and knowing what to expect.
The country's not set up for technical science support and research kind of componentry. We really have set up a system that's focused on emergency response. We don't have an infrastructure to bring together our technical experts studying water and studying lead and studying air pollution. So when something happens, it's all done ad hoc. And most of this data and information that'll make us better, smarter, more effective in taking care of people is never collected. DR2 is really a model of trying to empower local level capacity. It's trying to create tools and resources for our universities, our communities, our health departments to be able to get important information. One thing about the DR2 program that's really important is the academic community has not typically been part of the emergency response system.
This type of research is really interdisciplinary, and there's multiple people trying to reach for the same goal. As researchers and as students, we want to get to know how the system actually works, and we want to be part of those conversations. Our job is to be there as a support system and not just be those scientists that go in one day and we got our information and never return back to help them.
There has to be a plan.
NIEHS is doing a fantastic job of trying to bridge that gap of, we have all your information, how do we get it back to you so that you can make your own decisions?
As we introduce a workshop, we pose a situation that's not that far off from what we see in real disasters in reality. In 2015, we had a workshop in Houston about a hurricane hitting Texas with water coming up and flooding Houston. And then in 2017, it actually happened. We had researchers focusing on mental health responses come down and provide support. We had groups focusing on water contamination, providing that support. And they were fast, and they were smart, and they were effective.
The metric that was used was the ability to collect data immediately afterwards and do clinical studies that could be aimed at significantly improving outcomes in patients, which they are able to do almost immediately in areas where there has not been a DR2 exercise. Those capabilities don't exist.
Each of the workshops has been an opportunity to challenge us in differing ways and test different concepts. And what's unique about this particular exercise here in Tucson is we're not looking at it just from one piece of the community, we're looking at it all together. From emergency management to the hospitals and clinical centers that are treating people.
On a day-to-day basis, a lot of them don't necessarily talk about this and they don't sit down and plan together. I think what we're trying to do is just bring them all in one room, throw out a common problem, and then see how they collectively solve that problem.
The continuum of care begins at the point of injury. The experts like Tucson Fire and other pre-hospital professionals removing those people. Obviously, we at the hospital aren't going to be going to the scene. That's why this is a complete team response and effort. That's why you see all these people here from all the different disciplines, organizations, etc.
I think it's incredibly important that we prepare ahead of time, that we make these relationships ahead of time, not only personal, but intergovernmental, interagency, different levels of government and private industry. It's a challenge, but it's also what makes the disaster response work.
In the workshop, there were folks who had never gotten together in the same room at the same time to talk about these sorts of efforts. It's important to get local communities engaged so that there can be transformative new initiatives. For example, the local community has told us that 75% of the folks around where the railroad yard is don't speak English. So there need to be mechanisms made available to make sure that instructions are sent out as many languages as exist in the community.
One of the principles of working with tribes is to do things that are beneficial to the tribes, rather than something that we're interested in and just trying to get some kind of opinion.
A lot of the tribes don't trust researchers because of the past abuses that have gone on. And so by getting them here together, it's a real good way to begin that relationship building process. We're making progress towards doing better research with communities, not on communities.
Listen so that you know what they want. That's a principle that could go to any community.
When I first got invited to this group, I was really trying to figure out the logistical challenges that would happen during an event like this. But then a switch flipped in my head, and I'm like, oh, I see what they're trying to do here. Not just the next level from what I was thinking, it's 2 or 3 levels above where I was thinking. And I think that getting together a group like this can help us to better take care of people in the moment of disaster, but then also learn how we can better care for the next group of people that are unfortunately impacted by a disaster like that.
Partnering and allowing others to contribute to this dialogue beyond just the acute emergency management is helpful to us all. If we open up the room and let others be part of the solution, we're going to make much better progress and do much better by way of our communities.